All right. Hi, Erica.
Good morning, Nikki.
Thank you for letting me interview you. I wanted to uh, just do this because I was inspired. I was watching a video. It was the 25th anniversary of Jack Boland's death, and he mentored Mary Morrissey, Wayne Dyer, and Les Brown. And so they inspired me to thank a mentor. And so you're who came to mind. And I wanted to thank you and even share a little bit of your wisdom. So, so thank you for agreeing to meet with me.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for having me. And I'm super honored that you chose me.
Well, I definitely wouldn't be where I am in my life without you. My path shifted gears a lot relatively recently, as you predicted many years ago. And so now I get to do this awesome work in the world, helping people get clear on what they want to create in their lives. And you've been helping me do that for so long, and also doing that work in the world. So thank you again for everything. And one of the things that is such an important part of it that we all face is changing the old story, right? Changing our belief system, and even which is really our paradigms. And so, we come up against these all the time, right? Every day, even us still, we see them, but from your experience, I'm curious, how you recognize them, notice the paradigm coming up, and then what are some suggestions on tackling that? So, for example, when we're supposed to do something in our lives and it's just not convenient, sometimes that's enough to hit pause and not actually move forward. And so how do you notice that when that happens for you, or how do you advise your clients even when to recognize that, and how do they deal with that?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question, Nikki. So, here's the thing that I think: success is not convenient, right? And so anytime that you are working to achieve anything in your life, whether it's better relationships, whether it's, you have a goal with your career, or something that you want to achieve on the external world, or for some people, it maybe they're trying to achieve an external state of being. That still puts us in the kind of success versus failure paradigm. And what I mean by that is, in order to grow and expand and get to that next place in our life, that next level, or that next thing we want to experience, it's not convenient to do that, because it means I have to get uncomfortable. Like wherever I'm at right now in my life, it's there because of what I believe, what I know, what I'm doing, my actions, like everything I do on a day-to-day basis. That's what creates my life today. And it's not going to be convenient, and it's not always going to be easy to shift where I'm at today to somewhere else. But that's the point of growth and evolution, And so if people wait around forever just because, right now it doesn't work for me, it's not convenient, it's not easy, well, then a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, guess what? You're going to be exactly in the same place that you were before. Like nothing will change, right? And so sometimes the universe and spirit comes in and forces us to change, right? Like when we resist, like it says, all right, well, you're resisting and this is the path you need to take. So we're going to nudge you. And then if we don't listen to the nudges, then it's like, well, we're going to push you. And if we don't listen to the pushes, then we're going to get, I always say, like our butt kicked right into it. Or we could just choose to just do it do it on our own will. And then we get rid of all of that hardness around it, because it becomes a choice versus something we're forced into. Does that make sense? Did I explain that?
Yeah, definitely.
That? Yeah.
Yeah, I think, really deciding for it is the hardest part, right? It's even harder than doing. It's even, maybe you even know that this shift needs to happen and what it might take, but deciding for it, I think, can even be the hardest thing. And once you make the decision, then everything else comes in alignment around it, and then it gets easy, right?
Yeah, well, it gets easier, right? And
easier.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, last year, when I was doing a tour and I was talking to people about creating the goals and creating the life they wanted to live, and I would ask the audience, raise your hand if you've had a goal for more than a year that you've not yet achieved. And like 80-90% of the room raises their hand, right? Okay, well, raise your hand if you have a goal that you've had for 5 years and you're still not, you haven't achieved it, you're not any closer to it. It was still like 50% of the room, you know? And then I said, okay, what about 10 years you've had a goal? And I was amazed that there were still at least probably 35 to 40% of people in that room that have had a goal in their life for over 10 years that they haven't achieved. You know, and again, that goes back to that, okay, well, then you have to look at, why aren't you achieving the goal? Like what's happened in your life? What story are you telling yourself that's kept you from just shifting and moving towards that goal? And as you point out, a lot of times for people, it's just like, well, it's not convenient for me to do that right now. Then you have to ask yourself, well, is that something you really want? Because I believe when we really want something, we move heaven, right, and earth to get there. It's like we have the willingness and the dedication. And you see that successful people get where they are because they're willing to do what it takes to get there, period. It's just the way it is.
So I'm hearing you say that maybe it's even turning up the volume on your desire for it, and to, and if that doesn't happen, then maybe that's not really your dream. Maybe it's something else and maybe that looks different. But if we really, really want it, if we really have the desire for it, then that's what's going to catapult us forward for that change to occur.
Yeah, I think sometimes we don't have the desire for it, because of all the other things going on in our life, and it just seems too hard to change. Honestly, it's like we want the change, but there's so many working pieces in our lives that it's like we don't know how to do it, right? And that's a big reason why I always promote coaching,
Yeah.
because it helps when you have a guide, somebody to help you through that, a mentor. Sometimes, I mean, I find sometimes with my clients, what they thought they wanted isn't what they actually wanted, which is why they're trying, and they're working really hard and they're not getting to their goal. They're not making any progress. And that's often because they're not aligned with it. And sometimes that's because of them. And sometimes that's because of external conditions that they can't yet see. But here's the thing, you can't always predict that. So what you have to keep doing is, if you've honed in on something that you really want and you want to create that in your life, you just have to keep taking one step over the next until you make breakthroughs, and it'll all come together as you go on that process, whether you end up at your desired goal or you end up in another place that's even better for you. You have to get moving to start the process, and you have to keep going. Like, you can't just stop, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. We always say this or something even better still. When we have a vision or we have a goal, we don't want to be totally married to the exact way we want to see it. We try to get really clear and specific, right, on what it is we want, but hold it in an open hand. This or something even better still, because then you're not setting yourself up for disappointment if it doesn't show up that exact same way.
Well, absolutely. And, we don't always know what all the working pieces are outside of us, like where I am today in my life, or you are today in your life. We can kind of like project where we may be in 5 years or 10 years, but we don't know. Like, things happen all the time in life that it's like, I didn't know that was going to happen. Right. But everything on our path leads us to that next place. Like, that's the proof that we have. Like, that's reality. Everything we experience leads us to that next place. And I do believe that often what the divine energy or source energy, our spiritual energy, what it can imagine for us is almost always far greater than what we can imagine for ourselves. And so if we just work off of, it has to be my way, my vision, we may limit ourselves to experiencing something far more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you. And so one particular one is usually, I think, is so common, is a money paradigm, right? When there's an opportunity to invest in ourselves, a lot of people, we get caught up in, I don't have that money right away, and it's not always true, actually, right? And so what are your thoughts on that, or how do you coach somebody through a money paradigm?
Well, I think there's a lot of facets to the money paradigm, right? So there is, well, I don't have what I need right now to make this happen. And, the truth of that is there's a lot of things we can do that don't cost any money, right? Like somehow when we start, again, that process, one foot over the next, and we start opening up to the process, opportunity comes to help us, whether that is a money exchange or that's just kind people that come across. I actually saw one of the gals that I have worked with a few times over the last couple of years posted today. She's also doing her coach training, and she didn't know how she was going to get to the certification, the training part of it, because she's had some big financial things happen to her this year, like unexpectedly, and she didn't have the funds to go, but she's trying to complete it. And she just put it out there in the universe, and she ended up winning tickets to the event, and her whole trip paid for. And that's, a great example of, she didn't know that was going to happen. She didn't know how she was going to get there. And it wasn't going to be feasible that she could come up with it on her own, but she put out there, okay, if this is where I need to be, let the means come in to support me. Right. And so when we get in that fear around money, or that story or excuse of like, well, I don't have the funds, you're just blocking yourself off from the universe coming in to help support you and get you there. Right. And I believe that when we're on a path of purpose, we are supported to be there, because it's not just about us. When we step into purpose, like our path of purpose, it becomes about other people as well. And the universe supports that, because then we're in a service position, we're in a helping position. And the universe says, oh, okay, you're going to go out and live in your purpose and your passion, and you're going to help others. Well, that's where supporting. Yeah. So that's one paradigm, right, that you probably see as well.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yep. And then you have, a paradigm that happens a lot as well, where people start to feel so bad about their finances and their money that I've seen this several times with clients, where they need to create the space to create something. Like they're so busy with work and family and everything that they need some space and time to be able to create their content or their work or their dream or their desires. And somehow that happens. Like the universe prepares them for that. They lose their job, they get laid off, they, whatever might happen. And then they get so caught up in the fear of, now I don't have that thing I was holding on to, that they don't create, instead of seeing, well, you're in this place right now. It's an opportunity for you to not be doing that because you didn't have time. Right. And now be able to focus on whatever it is you want to create. The money will come. Like, don't worry about that. Create what you need to create and start that wheel turning. Whenever we get in fear or worry about what we think we don't have, about lack, we just create more of it. Like we create a fear response, we create negative feelings. It feels depressing. It feels like we can't get out. It changes our perception. And then we just get more of that, right? And more and more and more. And then we get nowhere, right? And then what people usually do is they exit out of that path that they wanted of creating, something in their life that they really were desiring. And they go back to doing what they were doing before.
Right. Back to entropy, back to where it's comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, yeah, I've absolutely seen that before as well. And I even encourage people to not even think about the money so much, but I mean, maybe whatever you need to do, costs money, but staying focused on what it is that you want. And then, there's one source, but many channels for it to show up, just like the tickets that you mentioned, right? You never really know how. We don't worry about the how, right? We put the how on hold and just stay focused on what we would love, and the universe can show up to support us. Yeah, there was something else.
Well, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have to get out of the survival of it, right? Like when we're in survival, which is I can just barely keep up with everything going on. then everything within your being and everything you experience is just that moment to moment survival. Like that's all you can see. That's all you experience. And listen, money's real, right? We know that money's a real thing. Like everybody needs to be able to pay their bills and eat, but usually money becomes an excuse, right? It becomes more of a reflection of what's going on the internal side versus what, needs to be happening. And I mean, I've coached people consistently over the last decade in business to 5-figure, 6-figure, 7-figure, and even 8-figure businesses. And they all have, no matter how much money you make, you all have those instances where things feel restrictive, right? Money feels restrictive because the more money you make, the larger funds that go out, the more, resources that you have, the more resources that you need. I mean, that's just how it works. And so it's that lack of paradigm. It's like a poverty consciousness, I think, and it doesn't matter how much money you make to have that. You can have it at any level of, I don't have what I need. And that's just a lie. Like we always have what we need. We just often block it out of our own fear or resistance from it coming in. I mean, money's energy, right? Everything's energy. So when you open up to the energetic possibility, the solution will come. Awesome. And that's what I like to remind people of.
Yeah. And so what would be a good pattern interrupt when you're feeling the fear, you're feeling that sense of lack, and, what would be a good pattern interrupt to shift that?
Well, the basis of my work is in energy, right? Like that's the basis for my coaching, for everything I teach and I do. It's all about learning to master energy outside of us and inside of us. And if you look at just the structural framework of, like, let's say money, it's very rooted in the same energetic place as creativity, as play, fun, and, opportunity. That's all housed together. And so I always tell people, like, take a break, like go do something you love, go color for 15 minutes, go, dance in the rain, go hang out with your girlfriends and have a cup of tea or coffee and just like laugh, like be playful. And as soon as we do that, laughter is the best medicine, right? I mean, it really is. But whenever we take ourselves and we just give ourselves permission to play or have fun or just take a break from it, it elevates the energy. Like everything then just like shifts. And as soon as we shift our vibrational frequency to a higher, lighter place, what felt like it was blocking us or holding us back, it begins to dissipate. I think that's the best interrupt you can give, like just stop and just go play and have fun. People are so resistant, but I can't, right? They always say, but I can't do that because I have to get this done. Well, you have no energy to get through that to-do list when you're burned out. But if you go play and you have fun for 15 minutes even, and you come back, that to-do list doesn't seem so daunting anymore. And most people find they go right through it.
Yeah.
We forget to play. Don't you think that you see that with people? We just forget to have fun. Like we're here to enjoy life, right? We're creating joyfully, not creating out of misery.
Definitely.
At least we should be. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, we deserve it, right? This is part of this one crazy life that we get to live, is to enjoy it. We don't want to just work to die, right? Or work 60, 70 years and then we're too old to really get the most of it. So I think it's important to figure out how to weave in the fun and hopefully, support people in getting them to be doing something they absolutely love that supports them. And taking time to play, I think that fuels the desire even for more play and more of that in your life. And so I love it. Thank you. I think that's perfect. And having like a joy list, right? Or a bliss list, like a little go-to, like, all right, I'm feeling anxiety about something, what's something I can do right now? And when we say things like I can't or I need to, we're giving our power away. And so it's like, well, if I can't do that, then I'm choosing to do something else, right? And so I choose, we all have the right to choose our own, what we're doing with our time. So I'm going to choose to take 5 minutes, because how many times do we, instead of doing 5 minutes of play. We're just maybe on social media or something, and then whoa, 10-15 minutes disappears, and it's like, well, we did have time. So we make the choices to make the time for play or fun or to help shift us. So I love it.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Well, and time, right? It becomes one of those other paradigms for people where we always have time, and sometimes it's crazy. I mean, I know you've been there, right? I've been there at times where, I joke about it a lot, but it's like, I'm in the bathroom, I'm using the restroom, I'm brushing my teeth, I'm like answering a client on the phone, and it's like you're multitasking. You're just like, you have those periods in your life where it's like you're just nonstop, you're driving the kids to school and you're on a business call on the way. And it's like there's a craziness sometimes that happens when we're in those growth cycles, because energetically, chaos is where change is. Like, change borders on chaos. And so when we're coming from where this, I don't want to call it a stagnancy, but it sometimes is for people, but where we're coming from the status quo place and we're shifting through energetically to that next place, there's going to be chaos and upset. And sometimes that means that we have to use our time differently. Right. And you're totally right. Like, people spend so much of their time doing things that really don't prioritize getting them to their goal. And if they could just say, no, I'm not going to do that. Right. And I'm just going to choose. And choice is that was so perfect you brought that up, because choice is so important. I'm just going to choose to find the time, even if it's 5 minutes here and 10 minutes before bed or whatever it is, that space begins to open up. Right. Because you let go of the less meaningful tasks. And again, part of that goes back to the enjoyment of experience of life, because things always go faster and feel easier when you're doing what you love or you're enjoying what you're doing, and it's almost like a time warp, isn't it? Yeah. That when you're doing what you love, I mean, like, even like us talking today, right? I don't know how much time's gone by, but it feels like I've been here for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So, and that's because I love talking to you. Like, I love it, something else that takes the same amount of time might seem like it's 2 days, right? Like, oh, is this ever going to end? Because we don't enjoy it. And that's the key people need to figure out, is it's all about how you feel and how you choose to feel about it that gets it moving.
Definitely. Yeah, one thing I love to do, and anybody who watches this and gets through this far, I want to challenge them to, what is something that you can do in the next 5 minutes to move you in the direction of your dream. And I think that's something that we can do every single day, at least, if it's making a phone call or sending an email or going to look at the new car or house or whatever, or make the appointment. And I think that's something that we can do every day to at least keep putting that one foot in front of the other. So I just, I know our time is narrowing down here. So I just want to thank you again, Erica, so much. And do you have any final little thoughts or messages?
Niki, I want to know one thing that you love to incorporate into your life that makes it seem more creative, more playful, more happy. Like, what's your favorite thing to do to break your pattern when you just feel like, oh, I'm stuck? What do you do?
I have an inspired set on Spotify, a playlist of music, and I crank it up, I jam out, have a little dance party all by myself.
I love it. I love it. I also love to listen to music and dance. I always ask my clients that. So yeah. That's perfect. That's beautiful. Very good. So I think the last remarks that I would really have for our audience is just the realization that you can create the life you have, and you just need to be open to the possibility. And when you step into that, I'm willing to be open to the possibility, then the possibility comes to you. And that's why we're here. Like, that's the whole part of the experience and the journey, is just to have that. Right. So thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. I really, really honor you. And I'm so grateful for you to have you in my life, not only as a mentor, but as one of my best friends ever. So thank you again. And hopefully we'll be seeing you soon.
Yes. No, thank you so much. I feel the same about you.
Okay.
Have a wonderful weekend.
You
Bye.
too. Bye-bye.